Hello, my name is Rama Yunus, and for today's informative speech, I'm going to be talking about how male privilege allows criminals to avoid punishment in a court of law. So my research question is basically focuses on how male privilege allows male criminals to avoid punishment while also shaming the women through the justice system. So over here, male privilege is defined as a system of advantages or rights that are available to men solely on the basis of their sex. So rape is actually a very high incident that occurs. And so here's some facts and statistics about that. According to a Harvard Law Review by Catherine Baker, an estimated 12.1 million women in America have been raped, with 406,000 of these rapes happening in 1 year alone in the US. These high statistics have caused women to live in fear, as, quote, little suggests that the incidences of rape are decreasing due to the system that refuses to properly convict male rapists. While some say that a lot of rape allegations are actually false, rape allegations only account for 2% of all rape allegations, according to David Lysak in his article, False Allegations of Sexual Assault. This means that false allegations are actually incredibly low and incredibly rare, even though they do happen. But this tends to feed the narrative that women are the problem and that in rape cases, and they label them as unstable people who are just looking for attention or want to ruin the lives of the man. So a lot of victim blaming also happens when it comes to rape cases. And in the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology, David Bryden writes the following. If the victim's conduct prior to the crime violated traditional sex norms, police disbelieve her report or blame her for the rape because the men who control the justice system are irrationally obsessed with the danger of false rape accusations. Because women know that they will be shamed and put on trial themselves, the Office of Violence Against Women state that almost 63% of sexual assaults are never reported to the police. So the most crucial part of male privilege in rape cases is that throughout the trial, the females become a target for scrutiny instead of the actual person who should be on trial, which is the rapist. The victim becomes the defendant, as mentioned earlier in my paper. So how does the justice system work against women? In the journal, for example, rather than questioning why the male rapist executed the act, the judge, quote, allows cross-examination about the woman's sexual habits to distract the juror's attention from the defendant's behavior, which often leads to unjust acquittals, end quote by Bryden. By doing so, the judge relieves the male rapist from such questions and places the blame on the victim, which eliminates sympathy for her from the jurors. Society portrays women in a way that makes us believe that the way we dress or act means that we were asking for it. So the questions that I mentioned earlier are asked because of something called the cautionary instruction, which warns a jury about the danger of false rape accusations based on the Journal of Criminal Law and Criminology. Another law or rule that really works against women is a federal rule evidence 404B. A Harvard Law Review states that the federal rule evidence 404B prohibits admission into evidence of other crimes, wrongs, or acts. So basically, this discards any past crimes of the defendant. So if the male rapist has previously sexually harassed other women or abused them, this would not be taken into account and the jury would never even hear about this. So a rapist would be able to basically walk free, even though, quote, something that has happened before is usually relevant to an inference that it might happen again, end quote by Curley in his journal, Excusing Rape. So these are some informative links that help people understand how victim blaming is a real thing. So other factors is that I mentioned earlier, one factor is that in rape cases, rather than having the male rapist's life be impacted or destroyed, it's actually the woman whose life is destroyed. She faces a lot of scrutiny and backlash from family and friends, and many will side with the rapist for some reason and say, well, he has a future and this accusation is going to destroy his future and he won't have a future as a swimmer, for example, which was the case with Brock Turner, who was an athlete and a swimmer who raped an unconscious woman at a campus party. So the judge was going to put him on probation for 3 years as to not tarnish his future as a swimmer, but then he was sentenced to 6 months in prison, which he only served 3 of before being free. The survivor, Chanel Miller, finally spoke out about this a couple of years later, and she stated that the scrutiny of the case often felt profoundly invasive. So, to this day, victim blaming is very prominent in our society, and male rapists are not put under the same light as victims. They do not have their lives destroyed, but instead the legal system works with them to avoid acquittal and make the victim the defendant, and places the female victim on trial. Female victims will generally have their life questioned, their actions questioned. What were they doing? What were they wearing? To provide, and would be asked to provide more evidence that this actually happened, which allows these men to walk away free while scaring other female victims from reporting their experiences.